Welcome back, my brave and beautiful humans, to another episode of Soul Hygiene. I'm so excited. Um, I have been waiting for this moment to get Mr. Morry on here and really talk and just have a conversation. So, welcome, Mr. Morry, to Soul Hygiene. How was your day today?
My day was perfect, and now it's going to be
Wonderful.
even better.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. Was gonna just introduce Mr. Morry. He is a published author, and I wrote down all your books because I wanted to make sure I had all of them. He's a published author, and I think your books are on Amazon, correct? Like people can look
Right?
them up. The Chase is one of them, and then The Ghost of Shepherd's Inn
They
and
they were
Cosmos.
they were bestsellers immediately.
Yeah.
Cosmo is being made into a major motion picture. So although the book was published, we're holding the release of the book and tying it into the movie. So it'll probably be released 6 months before the movie as a promotion for
Right.
the movie. But
That's
since then, I've
amazing.
written a couple of others. But I just it's like anything. Sometimes you get the feeling that you just want to do something, and I can write a book in about 60 days. So
Wow.
when I get that feeling, it's like nothing can stop me.
You're so talented. Are you producing your own movie?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
Cosmo. The funny thing, the production company was talking to me, and they said, you're the producer, and I'm like, what? What did you just say? And they said, well, you're the producer. I said, I'm the producer of the movie. They goes, yes. I said, but I don't know that much about the film industry. And they just smiled and said, well, neither do most producers. So I guess I'm in good company. Producers can do different things, and some are actively involved. I'm more like the architect. I want to make sure that things are being done
Just one
in a
more thing to add to your talented resume.
and my wife still doesn't believe it. She goes, "So now you're a movie producer. What are you going to be next? The president?" I said, "No, I don't want that job.
Oh boy, let's not get started on
No,
that,
no, no, I
right?
don't want that job."
Well, I really did like our conversation before we started recording. You had said, we were talking just about kindness and simple gestures. So I was hoping like you could just give your take on, you know, what it's like in the day of Mr. Morry, because I know you are such a kind person, and I know when I talk to you, I always end the conversation smiling. Like you never have a negative thing to say. You're always willing to help and introduce people and just, tell me a little bit about you, what your day is like.
Well, my day starts out at about 3 in the morning because I sleep
Okay.
about 4 hours a day. So I wake up at 3 and I have my breakfast and I do a lot of reading. I read uh, 2 or 3 books a month, and it gives me ideas and it calms me down. Some people meditate. I read. Sometimes I read 4 books a month, depending upon the time allowed. We were talking earlier about how I had a meeting the other night with this wonderful woman, and we were talking about kindness and how positivity can really affect people. And I mentioned to her that imagine, you're going to a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks, and the person, their job is to hand you a cup of coffee. Now, you can certainly take that coffee and say, well, it took you long enough, and have some kind of
Mhm.
weird remark. Or you can just smile and say, thank you. I really appreciate that. Now, imagine how that affects people if they were constantly told, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. To them, it's a job, but it's also part of their life. And if you talk nicely to them and you appreciate them, they will live their day a little happier. And when they connect with
Mhm.
people, they, in fact, will pay it forward. Now, how hard is it to smile at a person, to say you appreciate them? It's not hard at all, but it actually is life changing. And many times, with our lives, we forget to do things like that. And it's such a small thing, but it's a major thing. If everybody had a positive attitude, then people wouldn't walk around saying, "Oh my God, the world is terrible." yes, there are things that happen in life that affect us and things that are bad or whatever, but we have to
Right.
balance that. We shouldn't let, our emotions take over and be angry at somebody and they don't even know why we're angry at them. We should really appreciate it, that that person that's working that job, that's a hard job for them. And I have to shut off my phones. I'm sorry about this.
You're
So
perfectly fine.
so
This is all
let's
unedited, so
let's
whatever
yeah,
happens,
of
happens.
course it has to happen at this time. But anyhow, um, and we had a nice conversation about that. So anyhow, I also discussed with you earlier about one of the books which I had just finished writing called it's it was a book called Why Some People Can Fly. And,
Yes.
and I
I could
know
not
it's a
remember
strange,
what you had said that. Yes.
strange title, and
Yes.
I'm not talking about, we flap our arms and we jump off a building and attempt to fly. Um, in writing the book, I started to notice why certain people can make a difference in the world and other people don't. And some of the people made major differences in the world. Thomas Edison, we know
Hmm.
what he created. Nikola Tesla. Now, here's a guy that he couldn't even talk about, to people. He was so involved in his own head that they didn't even understand what he was talking about. Yet today, fluorescent lights, that your
Yeah.
outlet that you plug something into, your remote control, the x-rays, you get an x-ray. He invented
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
Okay. He actually invented the radio. He invented part of TV. These are things that didn't exist at the time
Mhm.
when he was alive, but his mind worked in such a way that he was able to create this. And of course, there are people today, also Steve Jobs.
Mhm.
Imagine, here's a guy that we take this for granted. We pick up a phone and we use it and take pictures, but in reality, it was all Steve Jobs. We
Right.
didn't have any of that.
Right.
So you know what made them different? What made them different is they were visionaries. They looked at the world and said, "What can I do to make a difference?" And then they hyper focused and got it done.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons that some of these people seemed odd was because when they hyper focused, they weren't very sociable people. Steve Jobs wasn't very sociable with the people he was working with, because he was in his own head and he didn't understand business as much and he didn't care. And the same thing with Nikola Tesla, Benjamin Franklin. There were many people that were able to socialize, but most of them weren't sociable because they had to tune out the naysayers. They had to tune out the negative people. And this is where I actually did a TEDx speech about why some people were able to fly, and it's because they can control their fears. You see, you and I, and just about everybody, we're all afraid of something,
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure.
And it's okay to be afraid of a bear. It's like that's fine because if you're not afraid of a bear, then you might get hurt.
Yeah.
Uh, Being afraid of spiders, well, if you actually look at our size and look at this little creature, why are we afraid of this? Well, for all kinds of reasons, but you'll find a 250-pound man jumping on a desk to get away from a spider, But there are other fears that we have that are just not there's no basis of them. We may have been younger and something affected us and this fear
Mhm.
kind of grew. And what happens is it affects some of these fears. We're afraid of failure.
Yeah.
Okay. We're afraid that if we try something and it doesn't work, we'll look bad. Well, if that's the case, does that mean that we should never try anything? I mean, look at what you're doing.
Mhm.
All right. You're making a difference in the world. This is a big project that you're working on, but you
Yes.
control your fear. Some of
Yes.
these fears are perceived fears, they're not even real. And I did a
Mhm.
TEDx speech where I actually went by the different fears. The fear of trying, big one. Okay. The fear of dealing with naysayers. Many people, and we meet in our lives, take the position that whatever we come up with, it's a bad idea. I don't know
Yeah.
whether this has happened to you, but it certainly has
Yes.
happened to me a lot.
Already.
Yeah, it's a bad. Why are you doing this? This is a
Yep.
terrible idea. Now, of course, why do they take that position? Well, perhaps they truly care and don't want you to fail. Maybe that's a good reason. Or maybe they're just jealous of you. They don't want you to succeed because you're able to succeed makes them look bad.
Mm,
Okay. So they're jealous, they're envious.
yeah.
There's all types of reasons. Well, if you're constantly around these people, everything that you do in life gets suppressed because you're afraid that,
Yeah.
they're telling you it won't work. So you believe them. But in reality, that's all perception.
Right.
Okay. We can't
Right.
let our fears interfere with our life. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people procrastinate. They keep on taking something and they put it aside because they don't want to face dealing with it. What they don't
Mm-hmm.
realize is every day they procrastinate, that was a minor thing, now becomes a major thing. You put aside your bills and you decide, well, I'm not dealing with my bills today.
Right.
Sooner or later, you're you're
Right.
going to either have to pay
Gonna have
high
to deal
interest.
with them.
Yeah. So why do we procrastinate? What is it about us that makes us afraid of dealing with something? So
Mm-hmm.
many times, soul hygiene, okay, we have to look at ourselves and say, what can I do that makes my life better? And what can I do that makes another person's life better? Because why truly are we put on this earth? Are we
Right.
put on this earth to just make money and to pay
Mm-mm.
our bills? Because if that's the case, then we're put on this earth. If you do that, you're merely surviving. You're not
Right.
thriving. Okay.
Right.
Every day is mundane. Oh, I got to pay my bills. I got to work. I got to
Mhm.
do it. It makes you a negative person. But
Yeah.
if you decide that you're put on this earth to do something special, even if it's only 5% of your life, but you say, today, I'm going to spend 5% of my time doing something special, something meaningful. That actually changes your whole attitude about life
Mm-hmm.
because you're no longer thinking about surviving. You're
Yeah.
thinking about what am I doing to help a person? Some people serve soup in a soup kitchen.
Right.
Some people mentor, some people take care of children, some people go into a home where there's the elderly and take care of them. Whatever you do, that percentage of your life, when you do those things, can change there. It can change the way that you deal with the world. And I tell people that, it's very important to have something.
Mm-hmm.
Surely you can have a hobby. There's no question you can take up painting,
Right.
but interacting with people and changing their lives, even a slight little bit, can change your life. And
It's it's
I don't
very
know what
true.
else to say.
No, that's so insightful. I mean, you just basically said everything that I want soul hygiene to encompass in in one episode because it's, you know, and that's the whole thing is I know for 25 years what I went through and I was just a shell of a person. But when I quit being a victim and I wanted truly to heal, the world just opened up and I found passions that turned into my purpose. Just like I know that soul hygiene is my purpose because I want people to heal. I want them to see that there's a better life out there. You don't have to just survive. You don't. And so, like, you just encompassed everything that I really want soul hygiene to be, honestly. Some people call this my purpose project, which, you know, it truly is. It truly is a purpose project, but, um, I also call it like a call to action, like a brand movement is kind of what I call it because it is kind of a brand, but I want it to be a movement of people when they see Soul Hygiene's logo, they say, "I know what she stands for. I know how she tries to help. I know that the company has integrity and character," and they
Mhm.
can reach out and and then they turn around and help someone. You know, Kindness is one of the cheapest things you can ever do for someone. And then it's not really cheap. It becomes, it goes from being the cheapest thing you can do, but to that person you're doing it for. it becomes riches to them. And I try to emphasize that all the time on my podcast. Just smile, just say hi. When I started meditating, it was almost like, I meditate on certain words that really help my soul. And when you do that and you concentrate on serving others, because that's really what a purpose is, the purpose isn't for you, it's for everyone else. It's to serve other people. And when God gave that to me, and I feel like he really has given me this purpose, it's amazing the people that come into your tribe with that same attitude, right? So when I started being like, I don't like this negativity. I don't like living in this world of abuse and negative mindset. All of a sudden it was like, wow, there are other people out there who are positive, who want to help others. So I absolutely love everything you said because that's and I will put all your information in the bio because I really would like people to read your book and listen to your TEDx talk. I think it would be something great for people just to pick up and really meditate on. And that's a
There
great
is
title.
there is something. There's a gentleman that I met. He's an incredibly smart person. I don't know whether I can mention his name only because I didn't get permission to mention his name. But he did studies on many things, and one of the studies that he did was the power of the brain when we look at the power of prayer.
Mhm.
And when somebody is sick in the hospital and his family is all around him, and miraculously this person recovers, and the doctors are like, this makes no sense. There's no medical reason why this person recovered. Well, what this doctor, that gentleman I was talking about, what he studied was that our brain is very capable of healing people. And the power of prayer, when you accumulate a lot of brain power with a specific purpose of healing, it heals. And I know that sounds strange, but he has scientific studies proving it. What we perceive as miracles are
Mhm.
nothing more than what we want to happen. It's like we believe that we can heal the person, so therefore we can. And, that's all part of being positive. If we send out positive energy, positive things happen. And,
I'm glad that
my
you
books,
mentioned that.
yeah, yeah, some of my books, well, all of my books have positive meanings behind it. The first two books were about how children can face their fears. And I used it in a story mode. But the first book, The Chase, was about a boy who gets woken up in the middle of the night by his father. And the father says, son, you have to leave. And the boy's like, what are you talking about? And the father opens up his drawer and dumps all the hockey equipment out of his hockey bag and starts loading it with all types of clothing. And he hands it to the son and he opens up a window and he says, you have to leave out your bedroom window. And
Mm,
the son is like, Dad, are you crazy? And the father says, listen, I know you can do this. You walk across the little roof and you climb down this tree. I'm sure you've done it before, but you have to leave now. And the son is like, why? And the father basically pushes him out the window. And he climbs down this tree and he's at the back of his yard and he's trying to think of what's going on. Next thing you know, his house blows up. He has no parents, no home, just a hockey bag full of clothing and nowhere to go. That's the first chapter of the book. Okay. Now it sounds pretty gloomy, it's a nightmare.
it's
But in
intense.
it has, but in reality, does have a happy ending. But during this whole transition where the kid has to deal with the loss of his parents, he has to deal with, he goes to visit his friends, then his friends get kidnapped. And he's like, what's going on? This is a nightmare. Now he works through the problems. He tries
Mhm.
to analyze how bad his life is, but he can't deal with that. He's got to keep on pushing forward. And the book does have a happy ending, by the way,
Oh,
and
good.
everything's fine at the end. But of course, you don't know it. But I wrote that book to show children that no matter how bad things may appear to be, you can
Mhm.
get through it. You can
Yes.
figure it out. It's not as bad as you think it is. And of
Yes.
course, I wrote the sequel to that book. And again, it shows people no matter what you think is going on, it may not be what you think it is.
I
Now,
absolutely love that.
now, Cosmo, here's a situation, excuse me, here's a situation where Cosmo is an alien that winds up inside a golden retriever puppy. It's very much like E.T., but it's in a golden retriever puppy. And Cosmo, when he winds up in this puppy, he's 65 million years ahead of us. Yet he can't talk. He can't help us. He came to Earth on a mission. He wasn't planning on being inside a golden retriever puppy. And he spends his day with the people that he lives with, watching television, trying to get a handle on what humans are about. Of course, he doesn't know that television is not really an accurate representation of human beings, but he doesn't know this. And he's
Right.
getting very depressed when he's watching TV, thinking if this is what humans are about, maybe I can't help them at all. You know, and
Yeah.
throughout the movie, he tries to figure it out. The government's after the dog, all these things, but his whole purpose is how can I help people? And at the end of the movie, he does this incredible thing. And while you're sitting in the theater saying, okay, he just did this incredible thing. Now what? And the lights come on in the theater. And you're told to turn on your phone and enter a code. And Cosmo reappears on the movie screen, jumps across the movie screen, across into the theater where people are sitting, and enters their phone. He goes home with everybody. Why? Because he wants to help children now. He wants to show children that although the world may appear to be a hostile environment, may appear to be that there's problems, but these problems can be solved through communication, through love, through family values. And Cosmo wants to prove it to these kids. He wants to get all the kids together around the world and talk to them and have them talk to one another and work
Mm.
on problems together, understanding each other's cultures, because many of our wars, many of the hatred that we have is because we don't understand another person's culture. Well,
Right.
Cosmo wants to end that. Cosmo believes that all humans are the same. They may look different, they may speak a
Mhm.
different language, they may be brought up different, but inside, we're all the same. And he wants to say, depending upon how you look at the world, is how you're going to affect the world. So he wants to band the children together to work on problems. And our feeling is that by doing this, these kids learning through Cosmo, when they get older, they will be the new leaders of industry, and they won't
Mhm.
pollute because they'll recognize that pollution is bad for the world. It's bad for creatures that live besides humans. Okay. He wants to basically show these kids that instead of war, why don't we work through communication, which he basically has been showing them through the years. And now that these kids perhaps are the new world leaders, they won't look at war as solving any problems at all. So again, taking this little icon, this golden retriever puppy, and working with children could change the world. We have to fix their heads. We
Yes.
have to basically show them that kindness,
Yeah.
communication, love, that's really the secret of,
Right.
of happiness. Okay. You
Mhm.
can't get happy by blowing somebody up, you know? And some of these things that we do in the world, we have to stop this. And unfortunately, working with adults is very difficult because adults have been programmed. I know this sounds strange, but they've been programmed to hate. If they don't understand something, they take the position, well, then it's no good because I don't understand it. Well, maybe not. They could be right in certain areas, but in reality, children don't have to learn about this. They can learn that a Russian boy or girl, a Chinese boy or girl, an Arab boy or girl, they're the same.
Mhm.
Okay. Whether regardless of how their parents feel, in reality, These kids can learn how to talk to one another, how to communicate, how to resolve problems. And perhaps that's the way we can change the world. I'm not sure, but that's what the book Cosmo is about, and that's what the movie's about.
I
So,
absolutely love that. I love your heart for children because that's where we can affect, right now for soul hygiene, it's almost I'm trying to reach people who have already been damaged, just like me, hoping to give them hope for the rest of their life, for the second half of their life. And it's very imperative that we try to reach the children before trauma happens,
yes.
you know? Um,
We don't realize what children go through.
mm-mm,
Think about it. They're 5, 6 years old. They're leaving their parents. They're going to a place that they're going to be taught. They have to deal with other kids. Up until that point, they were dealing with within their family or their neighbor. Now they're dealing with a lot of stress. They're afraid that they're not going to fit in. They're anxious. We don't realize how this affects the children, and we have to teach them that it's going to be okay. And
mm,
unfortunately, in the world that we live in today, both parents are struggling to earn a living. So they don't have necessarily the time that they would like to spend with their kids. Certainly,
right,
they'll spend quality time with them, but they're stressed out. The parents are stressed out. The kids see this. They see everybody being stressed out. They see, everybody's being tired, and they wonder, is that what their life is supposed to be? So,
right.
so we have to show them other things. We certainly are showing them some of the wrong things, and that is violence. Most of the things that kids see on TV, even if it's the good guy killing the bad guy, he's still hurting or killing. And
Yeah.
in their video games and their cartoons, we can't constantly show children this. Their minds are very fragile. If you show them violence at 5 and 6 years old, they begin to think that violence is the norm, and it's not the norm. It's just
And
that
a
we're
way
not.
to solve conflict when it's not.
And we're
Yeah.
not right. Kill the bad guy. That ends that problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to be aware of this, and the parents especially have to show their children that the world isn't violent. That love is good. Okay, they have to work on projects together, and like I said, a lot of times parents don't have the time to spend the way that they would want to,
Right.
and kids are left alone to play a video game. Parents don't even know what the video game is about. They're just happy their kid is being quiet and while they're making dinner. Okay, not realizing that video game has violence in it. And how many video games don't have violence? They all have violence.
Right.
So what do we expect out of children when they're constantly shown negative things? They become negative, and then they
Right.
become negative adults. So we must be very conscious of helping
Yeah.
children and be positive with them.
And it's almost like I always use this analogy, but it's like a rock rolling downhill. Once they become negative, then other things creep in, and then all of a sudden they're on medication because they can't control their depression, and that's where to me it's just so sad because then they become adults who this rock has so much moss on it, now and I was that way. I'm very transparent and honest about, what I have gone through in my life, but I was that rock with moss until I decided I'm scraping all this off. But that's what we deal with when we get the adults who now are traumatized or
Yeah.
victims, and it's hard to it's hard to get to them. It's easier to
It,
get to children who are
it's hard
young
to
and
reverse the process,
yes,
but
yes.
can we stop the process? Can we alter the process when the kids are 5, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8, 9 years old? But that requires a lot of professional people, which is what we have on the Cosmo Project. All right. But it also requires a plan. How do
Mhm,
we divert the children from this negativity, from this violence? We have to show them other things. I bet a lot of children would love to understand the cultures of a dolphin. Okay. But
mhm.
they don't really know. I think when I was growing up, there was TV shows about a dolphin. I forget the name of it, but whatever, Flipper.
Flipper,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
yep,
we were able to see this. Rin Tin Tin, there was about dogs and what we were able to see that they're not showing this to children anymore. We
no,
have to get that back to the old school of showing children that they're not alone on this earth. There are creatures that are incredibly smart. And even if they're not smart, does that mean that we should ignore them?
right.
Okay. I mean, if we look at the bees, we have a terrible problem with bees where the population of the bees have dropped down to like 10%
Mhm,
of what they were from 100 to 10. Bees are
right.
very important for pollination. Well, we have to be aware of what are we doing here? Why are these bees dropping? Is it because of things that were because of chemicals? What's causing this problem? There's every problem is caused by another problem. Okay, we have to analyze it and say, listen, can we get children to understand and respect other life on Earth? Okay, can we get them to understand that when you dump chemicals in an ocean, all right, it doesn't seem like it's a bad thing. Gee, the ocean is very big, but the coral reefs that are being affected, there's a reason why we have coral reefs. When you kill the
Mhm,
coral reefs, you kill other problems. So kids, I don't think kids understand what's really happening. So we have to
mhm,
show them, but we can't
right,
show them and scare them. We have to show them by saying, how would you fix this problem? We have to
mhm,
get kids' imaginations to work.
right,
And
right.
we can't suppress their imaginations. We have to get them to work.
And you never know what a child, like, will be the next inventor, will be the next president, will be the next person to cure cancer. Like, you don't know what that little child will do for humanity. And so I think every little one is precious, every single one.
And they
Um,
need a mentor. So
they
I
do.
looked at it and said, what could be the greatest mentor other than a golden retriever puppy that lives in a digital world, but it really belongs to them? But this dog can talk to them, and this dog can hold their hands. If you want to think this dog can explain to them. Growing up with that mentor could change that child's life.
Right.
And that's what we're looking at now. Of course, Cosmo is programmed by very smart people, like child psychologists, crisis management people, people that know about meditation, people that know about nutrition. Here's another thing that affects people. Children don't understand when their mother says, "That's it, no more candy." To that child's mind, the mother is being mean to them
Mhm.
because they like candy. And why is their mother being mean, saying no more candy? Well, the mother knows that you can't have any more candy, but the child doesn't
Yeah.
understand why. And the mother wants to make dinner. She's not going to sit down for an hour and explain the effects of carbohydrates, she's not going to do it. So what happens is Cosmo will explain to them about how those carbs could affect their bodies. Maybe not when they're a child, but how about those decisions that those children make that follow them through the rest of their lives? And
Mhm.
if they're used to eating a lot of candy, guess what? When they're adults, they eat a lot of candy. And what happens? We have heart issues. We have issues with diabetes. We have issues with pancreas. We have all kinds of problems.
Right.
And many of it is caused by what that child learned to eat when they were younger. And those
Mhm.
decisions followed them throughout their entire life. Well, maybe if we explain to children about how those affect you, those decisions affect you, and maybe if we show them alternatives that they would like instead, maybe we can prevent them from being an adult that has health issues. And it starts out just explaining.
I think every single topic that we have touched on could be its own episode because
Yeah.
there's just so much to expound on when it comes to, helping children grow up to be healthy and have mental stability and health, mental health. Yeah, those are like great topics that just I don't think some people just don't think about, you just go about your day and go about your life. And it's like if we can get the little ones when they're little and help them understand they won't grow up to have the trauma that a lot of us adults have dealt with. So I absolutely love your heart for children.
And you know,
That's
the
a
little ones will actually teach their parents,
yeah, a
because their
lot of little
parents
ones
will
do.
learn. If
Yep,
we look at the smoking project, how did we stop people from smoking? It was to turn it around and have the children say, Mom, Dad, I don't like when you smoke. And after a while, the mother or father quit because their kids were on their case.
yeah,
So you never know how a child can actually affect the parents.
right,
So,
right.
you know, we have to try. And like you said, many people, they just go on with their lives. But I'm the type of person where I have to say, wait a minute, what can I do? Can
Mm,
it work? And of course, what I'm doing takes a team of people, hundreds of people, and getting those people together and getting them to work with on this project was a task, but it's fun because everybody knows this is really perhaps the way we can change the world.
right. It's so wonderful. I cannot wait for it to come to fruition and see the movie myself and read the book. I mean, I think it's gonna probably be a worldwide phenomenon, you know? Like it seriously could be, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you so much, Mr. Morey. I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart and just your willingness to look at the world and be like, I want to make a difference. And I think if we had more people like that, we really could change the world, but it just takes one. So
Well, I'm hoping it's infectious. You know, I
yes.
affected a lot of people in talking about my vision, kind of like what Walt Disney did. Think
Yeah.
about, here's a gentleman that passed away, I guess 70 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, but Disney World and Disneyland still goes on
Still,
today.
yep. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
think about how his visions, how it affected people so much that they wanted to keep his dream alive. Now, I know that Cosmo and the Cosmo Project, perhaps I won't live long enough to see the end result, but I don't care. What I care about is getting the ball rolling and then teaching the younger people behind me to continue in my dream. Let them take over. And every 4 or 5 years, we have a group of newer people taking over the Cosmo Project. So we, generation after generation,
Right.
and perhaps, you know, maybe my grandkids would say, "Hey, he started that. Who cares?" You know,
They
but
will. They will.
but it's a fun project, and you know, just thinking about it and talking about it makes me happier, and I'm thinking it made you happier, and
Yeah,
anybody
for sure.
listening to this will make them happier. So
Right.
if that's
Right.
what happens from our podcast here, our webcast, that's great.
Yep, it's wonderful. And all your information, I'm gonna put all this information in the bio. Do you do side things like do you have like a company or do you do I think you do marketing too for
Yeah,
businesses and
I
stuff?
own an advertising company. I'm a co-owner of a company with a gentleman. His name is Fritz. I know I'm not mentioning last names, but Fritz has been in the media business for 26 years, one of the smartest people I know. And he's working with me on Cosmo, on the movie and the Cosmo project. And
Wonderful.
because of the way that we've bonded, we said, wait a minute, why don't we create a company to help people who need our help? And it's, you know, and our company is called Unique Solutions. Why? Because we think out of the box to try to help
Right.
people. And we just kind of started it as fun, but it's beginning to take off. But
That's
that's just
amazing.
one of my companies. It's
Yeah,
just
that's amazing. You're
it's
just so talented. I feel like there's just
I hang around with really nice people. That's the secret, is you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to hang around with people who are the smartest
yours.
people in the room. So I've learned where these rooms are, and I hang around with really smart people. So they take some of my ideas and just blow them up, and I'm like, gee, you know, and I try to give them credit, but they don't even want credit. They just want to see this work. And I don't actually want the credit for what's happening with Cosmo. I just so desperately want to see that this program will work, because if it doesn't, we have some major problems in the world. And kids are, it's their world. you
Right.
know, and they have a right to control their destiny, and we just have to set them on the right path.
Well, thank you so, so much for your heart and everything that you've talked about on here. You just made me smile and really, think about things, in a different perspective as well. So I'm excited to watch the movie when it comes out, and we'll put all your information. I want to make sure that people know, like, your book so they can. I'm kind of curious about the chase, so I think I'm actually gonna go get that one and read it. But
Well, if they go to
um,
Amazon and they look up the chase under M. David, that's my pen name. What I explained to you, that little bit,
yeah,
is actually talked about on Amazon,
wonderful.
and it's just interesting how you can take a little story and change a kid's life. Because imagine a kid that's depressed and he reads The
Mhm.
Chase and he says, boy, I thought my life was bad. Look at what this kid is up against. My life is
Yeah,
not bad at all compared to this kid. And this kid worked it out. So if he could work out something worse than what I could figure, then I can work out my problems. And that was the purpose of writing these books.
there you go. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining another episode of Soul Hygiene. I will definitely have Mr. Morry's information in the bio. I hope you guys check it out and look forward to the movie coming out and the book and wow, just so much stuff, so much information, but I hope you guys you're leaving this episode smiling. So thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.